Staff Works Explained. If you are here for the first time, please consider subscribing to this channel. Also, hit the notification bell so that when we upload a new video, you are notified. In this video, we'll be talking about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a dam which is set to be commissioned soon, precisely in September 2025. In this video, we'll be looking at the completion and commissioning of the dam, which will be officially inaugurated later this year, probably in September, and the milestones that it has achieved along. We'll be looking at the construction journey, how the dam was built, its component, and the technical scale of the project, the filling process, which has been a year-by-year progress in storing of water, and how it has aligned with turbine activation, the financing and domestic effort, how Ethiopia funding the project largely without external lenders, the challenges that it has faced in terms of engineering, financial, political, as well as security obstacles during the construction period, the opposition from Sudan and Egypt, why they object, their concerns about water security, and their demands. Also, we'll look at the negotiation attempts, efforts that has been under various entities, mainly African Union, as well as other mediators, who have been trying to reach an operation agreement. Then we'll be looking at geopolitical tensions, the allegation of Egypt trying to destabilize Ethiopia, and also the legal context in terms of Nile Basin Initiative, Cooperative Framework Agreement, and how they have influenced the GERD dispute. We'll also be looking at the potential benefits of this project to Ethiopia, as well as the future outlook, whether GERD becomes a platform for cooperation or to be a source of enduring mistrust. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, is the largest hydroelectric project in Africa and one of the most consequential water politics undertakings of the 21st century. Ethiopia laid the foundation stone in April 2021 on the Blue River Nile. Ethiopians like to call it Abyei, which is near the Sudanese border, 40 kilometers away from the Sudanese border, the eastern part, and pursued a largely domestically financed build after international lenders stayed away. The Italian firm Webuild, it was originally called Saleni Impregilo, served as the main civil works contractor, constructing a lower cost compacted concrete dam, RCC main dam, and a lock-fill saddle dam, and together impound a reservoir of roughly 74 billion cubic meters. Webuild technical material describes a main dam of about 1.8 kilometers long and up to a height of 170 RCC dam. It is complemented by an auxiliary saddle dam, gated and gated spillway, which is an enormous or a huge civil engineering task that required more than 10 million cubic meters of concrete. Commissioning has unfolded in stages. Ethiopia first generated electricity from the GERD in February 2022 and brought a second turbine online in August 2022, while continuing construction and field operations. By mid-2025, Ethiopia had announced that the project was complete and scheduled for inauguration for the second half of 2025, precisely in September, after successive turbine additions as well as reservoir milestones. These steps followed the completion of multiple annual filling rounds starting from 2020 to 2024, and this raised the reservoir in a stair-step pattern and enabled incremental power dispatch to the grid. Technically, GERD comprises two powerhouses with a large Francis turbine, and the final installed capacity of these turbines has repeatedly been revised in public reporting, but it's often cited as around 5.15 gigawatts. Then we have gated and ungated spillways sized for major floods, and curved rock-fill saddle dam that crosses a lower point in the basin. There is an RCC main dam, a saddle dam. Together they create a milestone reservoir with live storage on the order of 59 billion cubic meters between minimum operating and full supply levels. Storage that allows Ethiopia to firm up dry season power. The construction path was not linear. Financing was political, project as much as an engineering one. Addis Ababa leaned on domestic bond sale, payroll contribution, as well as diaspora placement when foreign capital was scarce. The project was also weathered leadership shocks, including the death of project manager in 2018 and the broader backdrop of Ethiopian civil conflict years later. Despite these stresses, work progressed, although with timetable slippage and scope adjustment, which is common to mega projects. Filling became the core political flashpoint. Ethiopia undertook the first impoundment during the 2020 rain season, then subsequent seasonal fills in 2021, 2022, and 2023. In September 2023, Addis Ababa declared the fourth filling complete. In 2024, it proceeded with a fifth filling, taking the reservoir towards full supply levels. Each increment sparkled diplomatic ripples, but also provided the storage headroom needed for more turbines. Diplomatically, the GERD has been governed and periodically dreadlocked by overlapping tracks. In March 2015, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan signed a declaration of principle (DOP) in Khartoum, committing to cooperation, no significant harm, as well as equitable and reasonable use of water. This is a language that created a framework, but not a detailed, binding operating manual. US-hosted talks in Washington in early 2020 produced a draft agreement that Egypt initiated, but Ethiopia declined to sign, saying it needed more consultation. From 2020 onward, the African Union chaired multiple negotiations rounds. In September 2021, the UN Security Council issued a presidential statement encouraging the party to return to AU-led talks and work towards a binding agreement on filling and operation of the dam. Renewed talks in 2023 ultimately stalled, with Cairo announcing their failure in December of that year. Cairo and Khartoum opposition has revolved around hydrologic risk management. That is, downstream countries seek binding, enforceable rules on drought-year diseases, as well as long-term coordination and dispute resolution. Ethiopia, for its part, frames GERD as a sovereign development project anchored in what it calls equitable and reasonable use, arguing it cannot be constrained by colonial-era allocations. Rhetoric occasions spiked into talks of force. In 2013, an Egyptian president televised meeting featured participants musing about sabotage options. In 2020, a US president remarked that Egypt might blow up the dam, both moments that raised temperatures without changing the negotiations' fundamentals. And you can imagine who that president was. The wider Nile Basin context matters. The Nile Basin Initiative, launched in 1999, has tried to cultivate cooperative planning. A key output was the Cooperative Framework Agreement (CFA), which upstream states promoted to replace historic allocation treaties with principles of equitable utilization and no significant harm. Egypt and Sudan refused to sign that agreement. Several upstream riparian countries ratified. Importantly, the CFA crossed the threshold to enter into force on October 13, 2024, after South Sudan ratification, formalizing an upstream-led legal instrument, even as Cairo and Khartoum remained outside it. This legal bifurcation now sits in the background of any GERD operating deal. Regional security cross-currents have further complicated the Nile. Tensions sharpened in 2024-2025 as Ethiopia pursued a port access arrangement with Somaliland, prompting Somalia's pushback and a new alignment. Reuters reported Egypt delivering arms to Somalia in August 2024 after a fresh security pact, and both AP and Reuters have noted Somali openness to future Egyptian peacekeepers, development interpreted by analysts as part of Cairo's broader leverage against Addis Ababa amid GERD and Red Sea politics. Ethiopia warned it would not sit idle if external actors destabilized the region. These moves stopped short of direct confrontation, but underscored how the GERD dispute now intersects with Horn geopolitics. Allegations that Egypt has backed Ethiopian rebel groups have surfaced episodically over the past decade. For example, the Prime Minister, then Meles Zenawi, publicly accused Egypt in 2010 of supporting rebels inside Ethiopia, charges that Cairo denied. Credible open source reporting treats such claims cautiously. They are part of the information struggle around the GERD and Ethiopian internal conflict and remain allegations rather than adjudicated facts. What then is likely to happen next? In the near term, Ethiopia appears poised to formalize commissioning and continue phasing in turbines and transmission links strengthening. An inauguration is slated for late 2025, precisely September, which, if realized, will close the construction chapter and shift the spotlight squarely to the long-term operations. The most probable diplomatic pathway remains an AU-anchored technical detailed operating agreement that codifies release rules for multi-year droughts. There's also coordination with Sudan and Ethiopia's dam, data sharing, and a review clause. A comprehensive legal settlement is hard, but incremental operation understanding are feasible because they serve all three capitals: flood and drought risk interest. For Ethiopia, the benefits are structural. GERD has largely helped to expand the base load displacing the expensive thermal generation and create surplus for export. Ethiopia already sells power to Djibouti and Sudan and has commissioned a 500 kilovolts Ethiopia-Kenya interconnector that enables regional trade. Kenya authorities and regional trackers expect imports to rise toward 400 megawatts by the mid-2020s. With GERD, Ethiopia can become a linchpin of East African power pool, earning forex from export and stabilizing its domestic grid, provided transmission keeps pace and hydrologic variability is managed. Two persistent contentious issues will continue to require deft handling. First is drought management. Egypt and Sudan want firm release guarantees in dry years. Ethiopia wants flexibility to protect generations. Technical solutions, tired release schedules, tired reservoir and inflow conditions, transparent trade data exchange, joint flood drought forecasting exist and can be embedded in AU facilitated instruments. Second is the legal regime. With the CFA now in force among upstream states and the 2015 Declaration of Principle DOP still cited by all three, any GERD deal must carefully be drafted to bridge those frameworks without forcing treaty positions that Cairo and Khartoum reject. Finally, it bears emphasis that war over Nile remains unlikely because the costs are prohibitive and because pragmatic conditions is more pragmatic coordination is more valuable to all sides than confrontation. Even at movements of high rhetoric, diplomatic channels have persisted, and the UN Security Council has repeatedly nudged the parties back to the AU table. As the reservoir reaches steady state and turbines hum, the incentives to lock in predictable, transparent operations will only grow. The GERD story will then become less about drama of feeling and more about the long technical work of sharing a river for power, irrigation, as well as flood control. Work that, when done quietly and professionally, rarely makes headlines. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is a statement of national ambitions, a catalyst for regional transformation, and a test case for how Africa transboundary resources can be developed in the 21st century. Ethiopia has endured financial isolation, political turbulence, as well as intense geopolitical pressure to bring the project to brink of full commissioning. Egypt and Sudan, meanwhile, have confronted a profound reshaping of the Nile water order they have long relied on. The fierce disputes, the failed talks, the moment when rhetoric flirted with the war, all underscore the dam's symbolic and strategic weight. Yet, the GERD true legacy will not be measured by how bitterly it was contested, but by whether it will ultimately become a platform for cooperation rather than conflict. If the parties can pivot from brinkmanship to rules-based management, the dam can light homes, power industries, stabilize grids, and anchor a more integrated East African. If they cannot, the risk becomes a monument to mistrust. In the decades ahead, the GERD will stand as either proof that shared rivers can unite nations, or as a warning of what is lost when they do not. The choice is still theirs to make. That is Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan. And the world is watching and listening. So thank you for reaching this far. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Also watch other videos that you have made on this project. Leave a comment, like, and share. Thank you.